Good morning and welcome to the annual Bells of Peace ceremony here at the National WWI Memorial, Washington, D.C. I'm Yari Villanueva, the Executive Director of the Doughboy Foundation, and on behalf of my boss, the President of the World War I Centennial Commission, Chairman and CEO of the Doughboy Foundation, Daniel Dayton, and all the wonderful staff that makes this possible, I wish to welcome you to this morning's ceremony. Our mission at the Doughboy Foundation is to keep faith with the American doughboy, those Americans who served during the war. I'm pleased to be the announcer and narrator for today's program, and I'm honored to be here today on this most beautiful day in front of this beautiful memorial, almost complete. Today is November 11th. Once more, it's Armistice Day. We will toll the bell in remembrance of 4.7 million Americans who served in uniform during that conflict. They were men, women, African Americans, Native Americans, immigrants fresh off the boats from Europe, Italians, Irish, Chinese, Jews, and Gentiles, all donning the uniform to make the world safe for democracy. It was a war that changed the world and transformed America into an international superpower. Bells of Peace marks a remembrance initiated on November 11, 2018 to commemorate the end of the fighting of the war that changed the world. Ever since then, the Doughboy Foundation has promoted the annual remembrance, with tens of thousands having rung the bells of peace at 11 a.m. on Veterans Day to salute all Americans who served their nation in both conflict and in times of peace. At this time, please rise or remain standing as we honor our nation's flag with the sounding of To the Color by buglers Amy McCabe and Michael Parker. Thank you. Be seated. All morning we had no wind whatsoever. Thank you so much. Today, we're going to recognize the Hello Girls and their unique service to our nation. These were over 200 bilingual women who served as U.S. Army Signal Corps switchboard operators. Their service was important to battlefield communication, and even General Pershing said that they helped end the war by an entire year. Despite their service, including that at headquarters and at the front, suffering both death and injury, they were denied veteran status and promised benefits until 1977. The World War I Centennial Commission and the Doughboy Foundation unanimously recommends them for a Congressional Gold Medal, and we hope that it will pass in this session of Congress. So if you have ties to any senators, you might want to mention that to them so we can get this passed. It would be a great way of honoring their service. We are honored to recognize the following persons who have joined us this morning in this ceremony as we toll the bell of peace, present memorial wreaths, and listen to taps, our national song of remembrance. I'd like to recognize Mr. Daniel Dayton, who's the president of the World War I Centennial Commission and chairman and CEO of the Doughboy Foundation. There he is. Thank you. Captain Edward Gant, United States Navy retired, representing the Military Order of World Wars. Ms. Vicki Embry from the Daughters of the American Revolution. Mr. Byron Derringer, representing the Distinguished Flying Cross Society in honor of his great-grandfather, Captain James Eli Miller, recognized in 2017 posthumously to be the first and only recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross, the highest military recognition for aviators. He was the first pilot killed in action during World War I, and he taught Eddie Rickenbacker how to fly. Also, I understand we have from the Embassy of Serbia, the Ambassador, thank you very much. And we have representatives from the Pershing Rifles, National Commander, Cadet Major General Austin Smith from the Appalachian State University, and his Chief of Staff and all his cadets. Thank you for being here. Also like to recognize all our military who have come down to recognize the contributions of those Americans who served during World War I. We're honored by your presence today. It is my honor to introduce U.S. World War I Centennial Commissioner Dr. Libby O'Connell. Dr. O'Connell is a cultural historian and the author of The American Plate, a culinary history in 100 bites. She is the Chief Historian Emeritus at the History Channel and former Senior Vice President Corporate Social Responsibility at A&E Television Networks. As part of her responsibilities at History, Dr. O'Connell has produced over 60 on-site films for organizations such as the Smithsonian, the Statue of Liberty, and Gettysburg. Her work appears in education and television, and she's received 4 Emmys. She appears as a commentator on television and public radio on a variety of historic topics, including History Channel's new series, Food That Built America. Before joining A&E Networks in 1993, she taught history at Long Island University and worked in historic preservation. She serves on many major boards, and we're honored, of course, to have her on our board with the World War I Centennial Commission. In 2004, she was appointed to that position on the commission, where she chairs the Education Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Libby O'Connell.
Thank you for that very long introduction. Good morning, everyone. What a beautiful fall day. I've been here in the rain, and the water takes on a different meaning. But on a sunny day like this, it's beautiful. It's a privilege for me to be here with you, honoring the men and women who served in the United States military throughout our history. And at this beautiful park, it is particularly appropriate to honor the memory of those who served in the World War I, the Great War, at the war front, on the home front, and all branches of service. Today, I'm thinking briefly about the 223 women who in 1917 were sworn into the U.S. Army Signal Corps. They were formerly known as the Signal Corps Female Telephone Operators Unit, organized in response to General Pershing's dismay at the state of military communications in France. When Pershing and the first contingent of the American Expeditionary Force sailed to France, they brought the switchboards and those candlestick telephones that were the advanced telecommunication devices of their day. But they forgot to bring advanced telecommunicators who could work their state-of-the-art technology. General Pershing cabled to Washington on account of the great difficulty of obtaining properly qualified men. I request women telephone operators, all speaking French and English equally well. And he got them. The new recruits, already experienced in as telephone operators, became experts at speed, clarity, and accuracy through a specialized boot camp provided by AT&T. By March 1918, these first women operators arrived in Paris, led by Chief Operator Grace Banker. The Germans were bombing that city the night they arrived, and the realities of the battlefront became the realities of their lives for the next 2.5 years. In just a few months after their arrival, the Army's new telephone service in France had more than quadrupled the number of calls per day, thanks to the efficiency and expertise of these highly trained women. They became known as the Hello Girls. Today, that term might seem patronizing, if almost pejorative. Oh, what nice girls. But it was a popular name for phone operators at that time. These women were accomplished professionals whose purpose was to advance military operations. They wore the insignia of the U.S. Army on their uniforms and had sworn an oath of service. But that didn't keep them from enjoying their nickname, Hello Girls. They served at 75 locations in France and in London as well. Chief Operator Grace Banker and her team traveled to Souilly in northern France and operated the phone exchange, often wearing Army helmets there at General Pershing's HQ during the massive Meuse-Argonne offensive, where they were often under fire. Every order for an infantry advance, every barrage preparatory to the taking of a new objective, and in fact, every troop movement came over our, what we called, fighting lines, they remembered. 30 of the operators received special commendations, many personally signed by Pershing, and Grace Banker was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal by the General himself in the name of President Woodrow Wilson. The Army required most of the Hello Girls to remain in France after the armistice, with several of them serving during the proceedings of the Versailles Peace Treaty. They were very proud of their service and naturally eager to get home. But their homecoming was not what they expected. The U.S. Army denied the Hello Girls had ever been enlisted in the Army. They had no status as veterans and would receive no veterans health care, victory medals, or the promised bonus. Despite their uniforms, despite their insignia, despite their oaths, despite their service under fire, they were categorized as civilian contract workers. So the Great War had ended, but the personal battle of the Hello Girls had just begun. It would take decades of appeals and ultimately lawsuits for the United States government, the Veterans Administration, the U.S. Army, and the National Veterans Organizations to recognize that the Hello Girls were indeed veterans. Finally, in 1977, Jimmy Carter signed a bill into law in November, 59 years after Armistice, declaring their legal status as U.S. Army veterans. Only 18 of the Hello Girls were still alive. The World War I Centennial Commission, which I'm a proud member, and the Doughboy Foundation, the same people who created this beautiful park, are working with citizens across America, urging Congress to award the Congressional Gold Medal to honor the memory of these brave and patriotic communication experts who often served under fire and in extreme danger during their service for the United States Army. Please consider contacting your senators and congressional representatives and encouraging them to support the Congressional Gold Medal for the Hello Girls. And if you're interested in learning more about the Hello Girls, I highly recommend Elizabeth Cobb's history, The Hello Girls, on which I depended for my remarks today. I would like to close by thanking all the veterans gathered here, those in active service, and the memory of all those no longer with us. who served our country. And that includes the Hello Girls. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Libby. Not so fast. Would you come back here for a second? Oh, no, not at all. There are so many great artifacts that are still left over from World War I. And being a musician and a bugler, I'm always on the lookout for authentic bugles that were used. There were thousands of buglers who went overseas, and they were using these small bugles, which are commonly known as trench bugles. And on the front of it, by the way, these were contracted out to many music manufacturers who produced these by the thousands. It has the name of the company on it, has the specification, the government specification for the design of the bugle, and then the actual date when it was made. So we'd like to present this bugle to you. I know you have to play it. There we go. The poem In Flanders Fields was written by Canadian military doctor John McCrae in 1950. The poem went on to inspire the use of the poppy, which once grew on the battlefields of Flanders fields. It became an enduring symbol of remembrance across the world. First worn by Commonwealth countries, the poppy has now found its way into our Veterans Day and Memorial Day traditions. And we hope that one day here at the memorial, the poppies will grow as we remember those who sacrificed so much for peace. At this time, we would like to invite Ms. Vicki Embry from the Daughters of the American Revolution to read In Flanders Field. Vicki Embry is a retired public school teacher and currently an independent researcher focusing on the lives of women throughout American history with a focus on 18th century and early 20th century. She is also a member of the United States Daughters of 1812, Daughters of Early American Witches, and volunteers as a historic interpreter for a number of museums and historic sites, and gives seminars on historic reproduction of clothing. And she is wearing today a reproduction, and I think a rather good one, of a Hello Girls uniform. The reading will be followed by the tolling of the bells of peace. Ms. Embry.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we love in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with us who died, we shall not sleep. The poppies grow in Flanders fields.
At this time, we would ask representatives of those organizations who wish to present a wreath to come forward as I call your organization's name. Following the presentation of wreaths, we will observe a moment of silence, which will be followed by taps. The call will be sounded by buglers Amy McCabe, who is dressed in the uniform of a Hello Girl, and Michael Harper, who is dressed in the Doughboy uniform of a World War I soldier. From the World War I Commission and Doughboy Foundation, Mr. Daniel Dayton. From the Embassy of Serbia, His Excellency Marko George. From the National Park Service, Ranger Abigail Gillum. From the American Legion Post 68, State Department, Alfredo Diaz. From the Distinguished Flying Cross Society, Mr. Byron Derringer. From the Military Order of World Wars, Captain Retired Edward Gant. I also might mention that there is a piece of great trench art at the very end that was placed by Matt Ziegler from the Willard Hotel. At this time, please rise for the sounding of taps. This concludes today's Bells of Peace ceremony. We wish to thank everyone for participating in today's program. We'd also like to pay special thanks to our people who have done the video recording, our operations manager, Mr. Kevin Paul, and our video specialist, Erin Lovelady. We also wish to thank the Naval History Command for the bells, and to Petty Officer Lutz and Lieutenant J.G. Zingaro. We also invite you to visit our website, www.doughboy.org, and our other social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. And you can listen to taps sounded here every day as part of our Daily Taps program. can't make it down here to the memorial at 5 o'clock, you can go to YouTube to our channel, Doughboy Foundation, and watch the live stream of it. We also invite you to visit this beautiful memorial and stay tuned for information regarding the installation of our sculpture, A Soldier's Journey. We'll have information about that after the new year. Once again, thank you so much for attending today's ceremony, and have a great Veterans Day. Thank you.